Staying in Washington, President Trump is unveiling more plans for tariffs. This time, he's targeting the auto sector and pharmaceuticals. This development in the global trade conflict will likely hit consumers the most, with the import taxes driving up the prices of cars and limiting access to essential drugs. Tessa Bennett has this story for us tonight. Tessa, what do we know so far?
Very few details have been shared about the newly imposed measures, but Trump told reporters yesterday the tariffs on some of these materials would be in the neighborhood of 25%.
It'll be 25% and higher, and it'll go very substantially higher over a course of a year.
There's a new development in a series of economic measures threatening to upend international trade systems. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced intentions to tariff imported autos, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals in the neighborhood of 25%. Last Friday, Trump announced the levies on automobiles would be coming in early April, which was followed by comments on Tuesday about his idea for taxing pharmaceuticals and semiconductor chips.
Well, I think the concern here is that in this intertwined global supply chain, any sort of tariffs can send a ripple. But honestly, the biggest concern is that it's going to affect Americans by increasing the cost of their drugs, but also increasing the chance for shortages, which has been a massive problem for the last 2 decades.
The president has long been calling for fair trade agreements, saying there were large disparities in imports and exports between the United States and its international partners. And since his inauguration a month ago, he's been busy righting what he has deemed wrongs. Trump has imposed a 10% tariff on all imports from China, 25% tariffs on all imported steel and aluminum, threatened blanket import taxes of 25% on all Canadian goods, and introduced reciprocal tariff measures. There's little information about what the drug import taxes might apply to, but Trump says the tariffs would steadily increase over time, and experts are warning this would be a huge blow to the healthcare industry.
The vast majority of the U.S. drug products are produced outside of their own borders. So estimates, depending on how you measure it, look at just where the drugs are made, estimate upwards of 80 to 90% of drugs in their final dosage forms are actually made outside of the U.S.
Trump also failed to mention a start date, but told reporters he wanted to provide time for drug and chip makers to set up factories in the U.S. to avoid the costly measures.
I've been contacted by some of the biggest companies in the world, and because of what we're doing economically and through tariffs and taxes and incentives, and they want to come back into the United States.
Similar to the damage to the pharmaceutical industry, the global auto sector would be hit hard if Trump decided to follow through on tariffs, as would the states.
You might have some direction of some manufacturers now making different decisions on where they will get their parts from, or maybe building more in-house infrastructure, so building more plants in the U.S. But this takes a lot of capital and a lot of time.
Per Bloomberg, in 2024, half of the vehicle sales in the United States were passenger cars and light trucks imported to the country from elsewhere. And coupled with the March 12 date for steel and aluminum tariffs, both metals relied upon for the manufacturing of vehicles, the auto industry could be toppled, with consumers feeling the brunt of the impacts with higher car prices.
It hits all parties, the manufacturer, the employees for the manufacturer, and then eventually the consumer as well. The higher price of the part, and then it just kind of cascades along the line.
These import taxes are stoking fears among major global markets, and Wall Street's main indexes slipped after Trump's most recent comments.